reason to contemplate, why could Isabel in this CAM school help me? Here's my story. And I wish to share because I want to make the point that these pains, chronic issues you're experiencing are not because of a one-time thing or event. They can be, however, it's typically an accumulation of events that stack in our lives that reinforce specific behaviors, mindsets, or even adaptations in the body, how we actually move from day to day in our posture and how we speak and how we communicate our body language, and how it's not actually helping us. However, the body is doing its best to help us be our most efficient in each moment of every day with where we're at in a body, mind, soul level. This is going to be a fast track of what I experienced. At 18, I moved away from home to move to Colorado, a place I'd never been, but really felt called to go. I'm so happy I did because it changed the trajectory of my life tenfold. It was the best gift that I could have ever given to myself at 18. While in Colorado, I worked at Keystone Resort, and I actually tried out for ski patrol at 19, and I made it. I took an advanced EMT course over that summer, paid for it myself, and felt like I was on my way to being the best ski patroller in the world. Yet, that did not happen. I actually had the biggest failure of my life by not passing my online EMT exam and feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders, and the first real failure I've ever experienced. On top of that, I was verbally abused by the ski patrol director at the time, which I never told anyone about because who would believe a 19-year-old girl? This I want to point out as one of the very first occurrences of me not advocating for myself after leaving the nest. Working at the resort as a ski instructor was actually a gift because it taught me a lot more about the body. It honed in on my love for the kinesthetics of life, and it showed me that I'm better at being a preventative care person versus a cleanup crew person. As life goes, I met someone and we were dating for a year and a half. We had moved to Southern California where I took my yoga teacher training, and at the same time, I found out that I was pregnant. At almost 21, I had to make the very hard decision that I was not in the right relationship, the right place, I didn't have the right finances, and I was not well enough in my own self to have a child, and made the very hard decision to let that child go in order to not add to the destruction that was happening in my life on both a personal side and a familia side. For the next year and a half after that, I felt completely numb, out of my body, disassociated, and like there's little life inside of me. I left that partner, I moved home with my dad in 2020, and I got a fresh start. That summer, I started a new relationship, and at the same time, chronic BV and yeast infections started entering my body. This was a very interesting correlation I did not make at the time, but pay attention. Thinking that this was just a fluke, one-time experience, I went to the ER, got antibiotics, and was on my merry way because I was moving to Alaska and I didn't have time to wait. But each month after that, I kept having chronic BV and yeast infection symptoms come up, and I kept going back to get more antibiotics. I had no idea how terrible this was on my body, but this was equivalent to dropping a bomb inside of my gut every month for a whole year. It was December, and I decided to get my copper IUD out, the first step towards healing my womb space from the abortion and from the birth control. I'd never been on birth control before that, so I was only exposed to 3 years of it. The moment that it came out of my body, I felt like the angels were singing. I felt so much relief, and I felt much more like myself. It also was a very big healing moment for me because it did not have any more power or trauma associated with that part of my body. It was one of the first times that I advocated for myself to get birth control out, and it felt amazing. Then 2 months later, I had another attack of BV and yeast infections after 2 months of being clear and thinking that I had resolved the problem. This was my last straw. That time, having to go to the ER again prevented me from going skiing that day. And because I was in so much pain and aggravation, I couldn't go. There, the woman actually cared about what she was telling me and asked me questions to find out more about what was going on. After hearing my story, she recommended that I go see a naturopathic doctor in town. I said, "Thank you so much, absolutely," and ran out the door. Once I had that meeting, I had a whole protocol with tea and organic underwear and pH balancing soaps, as well as going on the elimination diet. The elimination diet was there to help heal my gut because I did not realize that I threw 12 bombs inside of my body and all of the exploded materials were just left scarred inside of me. That is the equivalent of antibiotics on the gut. It kills everything, good, bad, ugly, or sad. From that point on, I was fresh on the elimination diet, quit coffee, cold turkey, which I did for the first time in my life experience the withdrawal that comes with addiction. It was unbelievable that I was actually addicted to coffee, and it was the first time I realized that I had adrenal fatigue. Mind you, I'm only 24 at the time that all of this is happening. This is insane to be happening to a 24-year-old. After I went through the elimination diet and found out what I could and could not eat, I decided to go vegetarian/vegan, not in a healthy way. I was eating beyond meat. I was not looking at the different nutrients or micronutrients that I needed to obtain my health. Now that I had removed so much protein from my life, I was slowly beginning to see the effects. I had major hair loss. I was extremely stressed out. I had really bad skin. My nails were brittle. When I woke up, I felt like I couldn't even open my eyes. I was so exhausted. Very unnormal for me because I'm the kind of person who can zip up out of bed at 6 a.m., hit a really hard workout, run with the dog, go to work, have a good time, eat a bunch of food, come home, go mountain biking, go running, play out in this beautiful world, and I could hardly keep up. Because I'd learned that naturopaths were now my favorite form of the medical system, I went to one in Reno, Nevada. Now, at this time, I was 25, almost turning 26, and I had gotten blood work done for the very first time in my life. Terrifying. A few days later, I get a call on a Friday night at 6 p.m., actually pulling up to a restaurant because I was craving a hamburger. I had never liked hamburgers growing up, but I needed red meat. My doctor called me off office hours to say, hey, you are severely anemic. You need to go eat a burger or some dark leafy greens now, or you will need a blood transfusion. And I needed to start reincorporating different supplements, a lot more protein, iron-rich foods, as well as take 300 milligrams of iron 3 times a day. If you don't know, that's a shit ton of iron. Because I was determined to get well once and for all, I went and dove deep into the science, into the literature, into school, and into the different supplements that were available to help me. It actually blows my mind how unaware of how bad my health was at the time. I can say this because the first day that I took all the supplements that I was recommended to take, I woke up like a spring chicken, back to living, back to feeling full of life, and back to the me that I always have known. After that, my hair began to not shed so much. I had much more life force. I could get back to my workouts. My muscles were growing again, and I overall felt so much healthier. Along this journey, I also dove into some coaching around sex, love, and relationships because I know that there was a big wound still inside of me from the abortion. I was also still grieving from those relationships and learning how to love myself for who I was. All of this taught me that I have to be my biggest advocate for my health. What is out there in the world isn't always true, and even the stuff that I teach my clients, I tell them whatever their body is telling them is the right answer. I am not superior to what your intuition is telling you to do, and that is a first and foremost standpoint. I also learned that hypermasculinity is not the way. Softening into my feminine energy and allowing myself to flow in life and to receive love, receive help, receive attention was a really healing medicine that I needed. Because I was so deep on this health journey, I ended up leaving the relationship that I was in during that anemic time period because we were just slowly coming apart. I also felt like what I wanted to do with my life was being suppressed in the sense of how I wanted to live, how I wanted to eat, what I cared about, and wanting someone to share those activities with. It was almost a 4-year-long relationship, and it was one of the hardest things I have ever had to do. I literally had to say goodbye to my best friend. By leaving that relationship, I gave myself the space to shift into the next version of me that I needed for me, not anyone else around me, because we need us for ourselves. I need me to be the advocate, to be the one to listen to my intuition, to be the one doing the research on what's right for my body and what feels like a yes in my body, as well as taking the time to soften and do these practices that are helpful and useful, like meditation, vision quests, plant medicine, ceremonies and journeys, saying yes to schooling that felt aligned with me and that's online through the Czech Institute, as well as going to different countries and retreats that I've always wished to travel to. I took more action on things that would make me money in the way that I wanted to make money. I decided that I was tired of skirting around the ideas that I had and the desires that I craved to explore and make come to life, and I just did them. I treated myself how I wanted a partner to treat me. I'd always wanted to go to Maui, so for my 28th birthday, I took myself there. And above all else, I have stayed disciplined. I do not give my power up to anyone else. If I want something, I ask, because if we do not ask, the answer is always no. So this is my invitation to both women and men to step forward in their health and to reclaim what they know about themselves, to reclaim their intuition, to reclaim where they wish to go with their health, and to be the advocate for themselves, the one that maybe they were never taught how to be, and they need a little push in the right direction. Maybe you just need simplicity and a sustainable approach to getting well again and staying that way. That is what this is here for. This is a safe container to come forward and to learn more about your body, because I believe we have to come together to heal together. I'm passionate about this because no one should have to go through what I went through. If you wish to avoid what I went through, or maybe you're feeling like you are on a similar journey or have similar symptoms or issues, there is a way out, and I am here to open that door for you. Into the unknown. Just kidding. I know the path. We're just gonna go that way.